How y'all doing today? I have a guest, special guest, friend of mine, Ken Lear, former Nittany Lion, 1997 from 97 to 2001. How you doing today, Ken?
I'm great, James. How are you?
Man, I'm okay, man. Ken was a 4-year letterman, 3-year starter on the soccer team. In 1998 and 2001, he was an all Big Ten academic selection. So brains and athletic ability. What's going on, buddy?
Not much. Yeah, between the good times at Penn State, I actually played some soccer and actually opened a book or two. Not too many, books, but
Hey,
definitely a book
books
or
are
two.
always good, man. Everybody writing books. It's funny. My mom been pressing me for about 10 years to write a book.
Yeah,
You got it. You need to write a book. You need to put your story in there. I was like, okay, I will, Mom,
you
one day.
should.
Right.
You should.
So
I
tell
love
me,
it.
man, we've been friends for about 15 years now. So,
Yeah.
tell me about your time over at Penn State as a collegiate athlete.
Yeah, it's very interesting, right? So we knew, I guess, of each other in a way,
Right,
because
right,
of sports and the
right.
athletic teams. We were so close. Obviously, I went to the football games pretty often. I don't know if you came to any soccer games, I'll tell you that much. But
Probably not.
yeah, I don't think you did. But we obviously met after Penn State. But yeah, listen, I grew up South Florida. I went to a Catholic high school, St. Thomas Aquinas, in Fort Lauderdale, and then got recruited to play soccer, for Penn State. And it was in my family. My older brother played for Penn State also, played soccer 1993 to 1997. And then I played 1997 to 2001. So it was 8 years of the Lear brothers, or 8.5, I guess, because I stayed for the extra half semester. But I love Penn State. I just went back a few months ago. I don't know if I told you that.
Oh, yeah, you did. How did you take the family?
Yeah, yeah, it was really neat. The boys, I have a 9-year-old and a 7-year-old now. They're both little soccer players, right? They like their. Apparently, my oldest told my friend the other day. He said, so where are you going to go to college? He's like, Penn State. Like there was a question.
Right, right. That's how
So
my youngest like that. He was like, I want to go to the Penn State game. He got Penn State everything. I'm like, what you want? Oh, Penn State. I need a Penn State jersey, Dad. But don't
yeah.
just get me in a Penn State jersey. I want a number 6 jersey.
Well, that's right. He should.
That's funny. So at Penn
He
State,
should.
you played soccer for 4 years. How was the experience playing soccer?
I'll tell you, college athletics was very eye-opening to me. I played in a pretty good high school team. We were 2-time state champions, pretty good club team. And then going to Penn State, as I'm sure playing football, everyone's just as good as you are,
Right,
right? If not better.
right.
And so, and being a freshman on a team that had all Americans on the team, and there's players that have played in big games and have more experience, and it was very humbling, to be honest. It was very humbling. My first 2 years, really the reality is I didn't start as much as I wanted to. So I had to fight my way into the lineup for literally almost every practice. And I remember, getting in the game and starting a few games and making mistakes and then getting yanked off the field, and then I didn't start for a few games. I remember I didn't even travel a game or two. And then getting back my junior year. So I think my junior year was probably the best team that we had. I played with some incredible players. A couple guys were All Americans, and a couple guys went on. They were Heisman Trophy finalists, and which was kind of like the Herman Trophy. I'm sorry, Herman Trophy finalist is soccer, Heisman is football, right? So it's kind of the same, like the most decorated soccer player in the country, and it was a group of us that when we came in, freshmen, that were all kind of stuck together, kind of through our 4 years. And when we became juniors, we were, top 5, top 6 in the country. We made a pretty strong run in the NCAA tournament. Ended up losing the Elite Eight, one of the kind of final round games before the Final Four, and then my 5th year, we had another really good team also, top 10, and we were typically top 20, but not a team that made a pretty strong run. But it was hard, man. I wasn't, obviously your story's probably a little different than mine was, but it was tough. I had to fight my way in, and when I got in, I had to keep my spot, and there's a lot of players competing for it. So, but it was very humbling. Incredible experience, though. Absolutely
Right.
incredible. Wouldn't have changed it for the world.
I'm sure it's funny because I agree with you. It was the same way. Getting there, being humbling, being a high school All-American. Then you get there, everybody's high school All-Americans. Then you feel like you're supposed to be playing. You feel like you're better than the person in front of you. And then in our situation, we had an old school coach in Joe Paterno that really didn't believe in playing freshmen. It was tough at times. And I would say the same probably towards my sophomore year where it kind of shifted. Cause I played some as a freshman, not a lot. And then at the beginning as a sophomore year, played a little bit as well. But then it started to change towards the end of my sophomore year to where I would get the start and the finish. So I was like, okay, well, this is what I've been waiting for a long time. So
Yeah,
definitely understand.
yeah. We had a similar coach. Our coach Barry Gorman had been at Penn State for many years and had a pretty strong track record, in the community of soccer, and very very similar. He was, looking back on the experience. I even remember, I went through a really hard time playing. I went after that junior year, we had a really strong run. I ended up studying abroad in Spain, and I wasn't with the team during the spring semester. I came back to the team, and going into my senior year, after a few preseason days of training and whatever, coach actually cut me from the team. And I don't know if you know this story, but he cut me, yeah. And listen, looking back in the experience, he had his reasons around scholarships and my lack of performance my first couple years with compared to my scholarships. And I remember being such a young adult and thinking that he was picking on me, and blaming him and blaming everything else but myself. And I really went to a really dark place, to be honest. And then I ended up playing on the club team a little bit, just kind of stay. I was thinking about transferring, and I decided to stick it out and decided to stay. That semester, which is kind of random, on the club team, we ended up winning a national championship for the Penn State club soccer team. And a couple players had some, tough experiences that year on the varsity squad. And then we came back, and he came back and spoke to me at the end of that semester and said, "Hey, we should start over." There's obviously players looking to bring back in camp in the spring season. You still have an extra semester to play. And I am coming back and playing my 5th year. And I started a lot of my 5th year. And but I just remember, and knowing what I know now in business, going through that experience as a young adult and as a young man, that didn't happen to me. That happened for me. That was such a huge shift and as I look at it now, it's such a huge experience in a negative way that kind of woke me up to what the real world is like. And I know it's paid off dividends in business because of it. And although I hated the experience, and I was so ashamed. And listen, being an athlete, as you know, you're on campus, you're known as an athlete. I'm walking around the class when the team's traveling, and I'm a senior, and they're like, "Why aren't you guys out of town?" Yeah, no, I don't play on the team anymore, kind of thing. It was really hard to swallow that pill. But looking back on it, it was an incredible experience in life. That taught me a lot.
Right, man. I was just having this conversation with a director of personnel, player personnel for a university, and we was talking about similar situations, but it was in reference to the transfer portal, and how easy today it is to feel like like you said, every high school All-American or high school athlete that's gonna attend a Penn State or Power 5 school, they all feel like they're supposed to be playing. So now you put a transfer portal in place, and just because they feel like the coach don't like them, they transfer and leave and go to another school.
Yep.
So and I feel like, because I went through that as well. My freshman year, I feel like I should have been playing more than I was supposed to be playing. I told Coach Bill Kenny I wanted to transfer. I called my mom, told her I wanted to transfer, and she was like, "No, you're not going to transfer. Just you got to figure it out."
Yep.
And
yeah,
so,
I remember doing the same phone call. I called my parents. I mean, I grew up in Florida, right? So my parents weren't in Pennsylvania. They didn't see me play a ton, but I remember calling my mom and dad with tears in my eyes and saying, "Yeah, I need it. It's not the right fit for me." And my dad just kind of said, "It's the right fit, and you need to figure it out."
Figure it out. Right. And it'd be funny, man. I would
need to
love
get back to work.
I would love to take a poll and see how many freshmen actually go through that same situation around the country. I would assume there's a lot of people go through the same situation.
Yep.
Right.
Yeah. I think it's about growing up. It's about maturing and understanding business and sports at that level.
Right, because it is business, right? So we just look at it different than we look at it as a sport that we love, doing something we love, and being competitive, and just looking at the dynamics of the team, and okay, I'm better than this person, and I should be playing, because you just come from 4 years of high school where you've been told you the man, you All-American this, you all that, and you get there, and now it's like, well, it's 100 people on the team, and everybody is the man. So, that is a very humbling experience. So, totally agree.
Yeah, I remember my junior year when we were ranked really high, and every year this would happen. I'm sure you guys had the same thing in the football team. But there was obviously walk-ons, right? They'd have tryouts for players to come out and try out for a few days. And I remember one year, there's like 2,000 walk-ons, 2,000 kids trying out for the soccer team. And 2 players out of the 2,000 actually got invited to join us in preseason camp. And and listen, they were looking for talented players. They're looking for to keep the level high and to be a top 10 program, so they can do that.
Right.
So the competition is that stiff. I mean, it's
right.
Of course.
Well, while at Penn State, what did you major?
I was international business and marketing. I took some courses in international studies because I went abroad, so they gave me international studies. I took some courses in business law, so I kind of have a mixture of an education. The funny story about that is my grades weren't the best my first 2 years in school, because again, I had a really, really good time at Penn State.
Right.
And I told my dad I wanted to be in finance because I thought finance was a route to be in Wall Street and whatever else. And my GPA wasn't good enough to be in finance. So it was marketing. Here we go.
Hey man, I think that's all of us. That first year or two, we get away from home, and everybody just lose their mind. There's no rules. We can come and go as we want. So definitely understand that one. Totally understand it.
Yeah.
So after college,
tonight, Wednesday, Tuesday, Thursday,
right,
perfect.
Right.
I'm there.
Right. Every night's Thursday night.
Yeah.
Right. Every night's Thursday.
Every night. There's some fraternities going on tonight, and we were there.
Right. It's funny when I first got to Penn State, and I used to see everybody walking past McClellan's. I was like, where is everybody going? It was like this Pratt Road back there. So I was like, so from Thursday night, every night is all you see is people walking back there. All you see is people walking. Like, man, we going the wrong way. We need to be going the same way everybody else going.
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
Yeah.
So after college, did you have any aspirations of pursuing soccer professionally?
Yeah, I think everybody does, right? When you play in college, you have the dream of getting paid to play the sport you love, the one you've been playing since you were, for me, 3 years old, you know? When I went over to Spain, I mean, there's a couple teams I was trying to, play on. I was there studying really, but then I got a chance to play on some semi-pro teams over there in the third or fourth division, in a place called Alicante, which was fun. And um, yeah, of course. I when I graduated though, I had that experience my junior senior year, and then we graduated. We had a good run my fifth year, and we made it to, I think it was the Elite Eight that we lost to St. John's. So we had a pretty good season, but I'll tell you again, I wasn't didn't have the best stats, that year. So I'm an attacking player, play up front mostly, and so there's a couple other guys that had better stats, and they were getting a lot of looks, and they ended up going on and playing in the pros, and I don't know. I came to a point where I just felt a little bit burnt out, to be honest. And looking back, I think it was just immaturity. But I wanted to get in business, and this is back in 2001, right? I graduated Penn State when I was 10 years old in 2001, right? It was about 20 years ago. And so and this is like early years of like MLS, right? The professional soccer league in the U.S. and I mean, people weren't really making any money playing in that league back then, and frankly, the reality is I wasn't good enough to kind of take it to that level. People had said along the way they thought I was, and maybe I believed it at certain points, but I never took that leap to try to get after it.
Totally understand. Even for me after college, waiting for the draft, just waiting time out and sitting in the draft for 3 days, 2 days, waiting to hear your name call. It was nerve wracking. I can remember
Yeah,
my youngest sister at the time, and at the time she was probably about 12, and we were sitting around. The first, back then the draft was on. It was 3 days, right? It was
yeah,
Friday. No, was it Friday and Saturday, or was Saturday and Sunday? It was Saturday and Sunday. So the first 3 rounds was on Saturday and the remaining rounds was on Sunday. And I was third round. So it was like towards the end of the day. And my youngest sister, I remember her just started crying. Was like, we've been waiting long enough. When are they going to go? When are they going to go? So, and probably about 20 minutes later, I get a phone call and a 904 number pop up on my phone, which was Coach Coughlin. And, I'm outside on the patio, everybody in the house, and I just hear everybody scream. So I'm like, okay, well, that must be Jacksonville on the phone or something. So
yeah,
then I went in and everybody was just, I didn't even know who I was playing for at the time.
yeah. That's
So,
awesome.
right.
That's awesome.
So after college, you decided to go into the, corporate world, and you decided to take a commission-based job. I know the story, but tell us a little bit more about the story. Why do you decide to take
Yeah,
a commission job?
yeah. So, it was interesting, the whole collegiate athlete to the business world transition. To be honest, I felt lost a little bit. I didn't know how I would fit into the business world. I didn't know. I knew I had a lot to offer. I knew I had leadership skills. Obviously, I had a business and marketing degree, but I didn't know how I'd fit in. There's a lot of my roommates and even teammates that were like architectural engineering or industrial, and they knew exactly what they wanted. I wasn't that way at all. I just wanted to work in a business that I was learning and growing a ton. I had an idea at some point in my life that I wanted to be an entrepreneur. I wanted to be in complete control of my career. Um, and to be honest, being a marketing major, I would talk to my advisor at Penn State back then, Andrew Bergstein, and I said, "Hey, what do you think I should be doing?" And he tried to get my resume out to a couple different companies. Sports Illustrated was one that he'd sent my resume to, and there was a position for SI Golf and SI Women or something. They're looking for, again, an athlete that could, work in New York City. But they ended up filling the position before I even got in for an interview. I went and interviewed with a company in Philadelphia called Northwestern Mutual because they came to Penn State and we were trying to recruit a bunch of athletes. I even went down there for an interview and met with them for, somewhat of a half day or a full day. And it was financial planning and kind of working with, that piece of business. And I remember calling my dad on the ride home because I was really thinking about doing financial planning. And I said, "Hey, Dad, I obviously that's commission also, by the way." And I said, "Hey, in order for me to get started, I got to do some investments." I was like, "What do you think?" And I went through this whole spiel about how we're boys and how we're, this is gonna be great, and maybe he'd be my first customer if I decide to do this. And my dad says to me, he goes, "You want me to bet my financial future on you? You don't even know how to balance a checkbook," which again, back then there was checkbooks. And and I remember going, "Oh no." The worst part was he was right. I didn't even know how to do that. And so, I realized that would probably be a long shot. But I was still kind of interested in that type of idea. Yeah, the type of, hey, I want control. And again, my advisor said you have to learn sales. If you want to be great in business, you have to learn sales. You have to learn how to negotiate. You have to learn how to, keep your attitude. You have to learn a lot about how your emotions play into a presentation. And so I just sent my resume out to a lot of different companies that were sales companies. There was a small company in New Jersey that was hiring outside business to business commission only sales reps. And I went in for the interview and I met with Michael, who you know very well. And, I sat across from Michael and really the only feeling I got when I left that interview was he just reminded me of my older brother. He was well put together, very professional, somewhat of a kind of created a vision of where his business was going. He was the CEO. He was doing the interview for me as an entry level graduate. I was super impressed by that. And I remember walking away thinking to myself, I'm not too sure about this, but I called my dad and I called the advisor at Penn State. And it really just came down to is I needed experience. There's so many people that graduate college that have no experience in the business world. And a lot of companies said things like, you need to get 2 years of sales experience before we even look at your resume. So for me, this was a perfect kind of transitional position if needed to get that experience in sales and dealing with people. So, but that's how I got started.
So what would you say your biggest, I want to say the influence on, as far as Michael goes, as to why you started the job?
So I love the culture. I remember coming in on a daily basis and being around motivated, young people that wanted to get ahead and wanted to grow. Again, I found the kind of community and the culture that I found in sports, like as a freshman at Penn State or a freshman or, someone on the high school team or someone on my club team where people were just, like-minded. And it was more in the business world. And I didn't think I'd find that. I mean, there's a couple of guys in the office, a couple of people that would, go work out after work, go shoot some hoops and go to team nights and like go have a few beers. And, I just, that culture piece of the business was huge for me. I was living in New Jersey. I didn't have really a ton of friends that were in that area. So work was the reason why I moved to New Jersey. I lived at my grandmother's apartment, which was about an hour away from the office. I drove grandma's car. It was a 1983 piece of, you know what I mean? That barely got me to work every day. And but so that culture piece was huge. And listen, and Michael, again, he was very serving, very giving to my development. He would meet with me consistently and work with me on my sales skills, work with me on my leadership skills. And I was really grateful, and I still am today. Obviously, as you know, Michael and I are still in business together today, 20 plus years later. And he's always been that way with me. It's huge.
Right. So at the age of 23, you started with this company in their management training program, correct? How long
Yep.
did it take you to advance through the program?
So actually 22 is when I initially started,
22.
and then 23, yeah, 23, a year later, I started off as a sales rep. I started learning leadership and mentorship and training staff and just kind of responsibility of small team management. And then over the course of really that 12, 13 months, I learned all the ins and outs of leading, coaching, guiding, and really aspects of running a business. And then in February of 2003, Michael became the investor and gave me the capital and the seed money to start my first business at 23 years old.
So now at the age of 23, right out of college, no experience in the workplace, real workplace, other than the year that you had. Now you're running a business where you're responsible for managing and training anywhere from 20 to 30 to 40 people. How was that experience at the age of 23?
It was nuts, absolutely crazy. So I remember, and listen, 23 years old, I was full of piss and vinegar. I was ready to conquer the world. I was talking out my ears about what this new business was going to do. I was, excited. I was scared. I was everything. And I'll tell you, I was working. I put in 7 days a week, 12, 15 hours a day. And I went hard. This is back in the day. And it's so interesting. I was telling the story the other day where so what we did was we sold small business solutions for AT&T in Columbus, Ohio. So we would go out and meet with a small business owner, help them take their internet service from something called dial-up and tell them about this new service called DSL. Like 3 megs of DSL and 6 megs of DSL was the new thing back then. And which is kind of crazy, right? We deal with fiber optic. It's like 5,000 megs now. But but we would literally, the AT&T struggled so badly with the mailers and the TV commercials and the call centers. They wouldn't get the interaction with the business owner. So our organization would go out face to face and meet with these companies. And because we took the time to go in and have a handshake and have a relationship with a small business owner, and we would walk them through the ease of the transition or the ease of the update, they were more willing to do it. And at our peak, we were doing something like 800 lines a week in Columbus, Ohio, which an average business has 2 or 3 lines, right? Maybe 4, right? And maybe a doctor's office has 5 or 6. And so we were helping a lot of small companies get this upgrade, get this new service with the internet, with the phone lines, et cetera. And, I built that office, to about 60 reps in my first year in business. And I was literally on Sundays, because I didn't have the staff hired and trained yet. As the owner of the company, I was physically typing in the orders, creating the invoices to send off to the client. And I would spend 12 to 14 hours a day typing in these orders because the system wasn't as we do everything on a tablet now, right? We place the order and it's all created and everything. But the back then it wasn't that robust, to say the least. But that was that was hundreds of thousands of dollars sometimes I was spending there typing in the system. So
Right. It's funny you say dial up, 3 megs to 6 megs, and now you're looking at fiber optics with Verizon, AT&T, Comcast. Now everyone has fiber optics, and now you don't even see 3 and 6 on anything when it's talking about speeds. You're looking at 50 over 50, 100 over 100. It's just we've come a long way in the technology when it comes to internet.
Right.
What are some?
Yeah, and it's crazy, right?
Right. So what are some other companies that you guys work with throughout your 20 years?
So within our organization, AT&T has been a mainstay. We currently work with them in the retail space, right? In the Costco's and Sam's Clubs and Targets has been a deal in the last 2 or 3 years that's been created. More on the wireless side of things than the landline, telephone service. Obviously, fiber optic is huge. There's a ton of investments in that space from these big companies. But within the organization, I mean, AT&T, I mean, T-Mobile, Verizon, we've worked with, there's a couple of the offices right now that work with Amazon. There's a couple small business solutions that again, Amazon's trying to get into the small business space, that they struggle with these, traditional forms of advertising. So we're going out face to face for Amazon. I worked with a kind of a not really a small company, but a company called Refuse Specialist is a trash broker. So what they would do is they would broker deals for haulers and different trash companies, and help the small business get better deals, kind of like an Expedia would for flights. And we work with them for a period of time here in Detroit. But mainly nowadays it's the AT&T and the wireless side of things.
Cool. At the age of 23, man, I would have been terrified trying to run my own company. How important was it to have Michael Sessions as a mentor, and someone guiding you and helping you along the way?
Man, it was vital, right? So I think just, I tell people nowadays that I coach and that I hire, if there's one thing that you get this year as a business person, as an athlete, whatever, is get a coach. Get a coach. Get somebody you can trust. Get somebody that can guide you. Get somebody that can help you reach your goals. Somebody who understands you. And listen, for the last 20 years, he's kind of walked me through things, gave me perspective. He's definitely been there for me in my most exciting moments of my career and my toughest moments of my life. He's been there, and to me, it's more of a brotherhood now as opposed to a mentor. But obviously, I look up to him a ton. But yeah, the first few years in business, he got a lot of phone calls.
Hey, that's what that's what a mentor is there to do, right? So I can speak from experience. Our relationship when I got into business, having you there to call and get guidance from and learn from was a big thing for me, and probably still to this day. I kind of tell my wife, a lot of times she's a director of staffing for a company in DC. And so I kind of, at times I tell about, how we used to do it, how we used to run the office and how we used to do our interviews. So, I try to pass on some of that knowledge to her. So when she wanted to hear it, at least, right. So, that was always good.
It's funny because obviously, Sarah has been an entrepreneur herself and, helps with our organization and supports us in a lot of ways. And so she's very close to the day-to-day operation of this type of business. And she knows me well enough to know not to give me high direction, but she'll subtly say things like, "Oh, so-and-so is doing this. I don't know, maybe you should reach out to him sometime." As opposed to, you idiot, you need to do this.
I think I might need to try that.
Yeah.
I might need to try that because she'll be like, "Hold on, what you mean? I know what I'm doing." I said, I ain't say you don't know what you're doing. So I'm all about, if it ain't broke, don't fix it, and learning from people that already done it. So, and I think that's a big thing when you look at having mentorship, especially in business or anything. Just, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. And if you have a relationship with someone that's doing it and that's successful at it, then, soak it all up and learn from them.
100%. 100%.
So 20 years in and you're still going mentoring. What advice would you give if you were speaking at, Penn State as the commencement speaker? What advice would you give them?
It's a great question, James. Great question. What would I tell them? Life's not fair. Get used to it. I think the most valuable lessons I've learned have come from my own experience. But if you're smart and you want to get ahead sooner than later, you will learn from other people. Just like you said, you'll learn from people who are doing what you want to do, it's less painful that way. Definitely less costly that way. Learning from other people. So yeah, I would say that is life's not fair. Kind of get used to it, but I'm a firm believer, and you know this, like the kind of the tough parts of my life. Unfortunately, 10 years ago, my son Brady just turned 10 2 days ago on 2/3, or 4 days ago now on 2/3/13. And the unfortunate side of that story, which because that's an incredible story, having my first son, is 3 months prior to that, my mother passed away from breast cancer on 11/15/2012. And when mom got sick and that went south, I was in California, running the organization, running my business, and I had to go to Florida. And my brother and I, unfortunately, as we get older, the responsibility changes sometimes, and it sucks, this type of responsibility. But we had to take over some of the things in our family and lead the family and make, decisions. And we found out my dad was getting pretty sick too, and he also had cancer. And within a few months, dad passed away, and dad actually passed away on February 2nd, 2013. The day I found out about it, it was a really obviously awful day. I literally spent most of December with him in his full care facility in the Northeast, because we tried to get him the best care that we could. And the very next day, my son was born. And so, unfortunately, I went through that experience, and I decided to rebrand my entire company based on that set of events. And so I branded my company to 2313 since that date. And, and I made the decision to look forward and to move on and to remember and honor my parents and the situation. And one of my quotes that I kind of live by is through our deepest through our deepest pain, through our deepest struggles, come our greatest gifts. And I know for me, it was an awful struggle. It really hurt me badly, internally, mentally, everything. But I made the decision to move forward and to listen. I got a family. I got little Brady at that point. Now we have Mason. I mean, they're looking up to dad. They're looking up to mommy, and we got to live. And in my eyes, life is short. We got to live it to its fullest. So, but that's what I would share. I'd say life isn't fair, and unfortunately, that's kind of the vein that I come from, because I would do anything to have my parents back. I would give everything up to have them back, but just not in the cards.
Yeah, definitely. Totally understand, man. Totally understand. So being so successful at an early age for the last 20 years, and now being a family man, husband, father, how do you balance life and work?
I do my best. I do my best. Listen, the reality is 20 years into anything, you're just better at what you do. If you're still in the same industry, right? There's so much experience there. And so the time that it takes me to do things and to make decisions is now, less. I remember my first year in business, trying to run my business, trying to do my thing. I mean, I would get so stuck in my own mind about what to do. I'd have to call 3 or 4 people. I got to figure out the right answer, and it would take time to do all this stuff because I was being smart. Well, now I can just pull the trigger left and right and make decisions and move on. I can leave something in its place, move on to the next thing. And so the reality is I can get more done in an hour today than I probably could in 12 hours early part of my career. But I do everything with a planner. I do everything. I plan, I organize, I look at my schedule 2 to 3 times a day as far as where I'm supposed to be. I go into everything. Obviously I'm human, so I'm not perfect, but I try to go into everything with intention, because, there's only a certain amount of time. I gotta hour block for something. I got my hour. I'm going to be there and I'm going to be at my best. But I lean on preparation. I do when everyone else is, kind of doing other things. I'm always preparing what I want to do next, because I know that, again, being an athlete, right? Everybody sees you in lights, but it's not what happens in lights that really makes you a champion. It's what you do when nobody's watching. And so, I do my best to prepare big time for everything.
I believe that's one of the big things I take away too, the time management. Just being able to sit down, whatever day, Monday, Tuesday, Sunday, and just kind of look at the planner for the week, to try to plan out what you have to do. Because, like you said, being a collegiate athlete, professional athlete, everything is so structured, right? So you have to get up at 4:00 in the morning. You got to go work out. You got to do this. You got your classes from 8 a.m. to noon. You got practice, then you got to come back and do study hall, then you got to come back and do meetings. So it's so structured. So, I think we take it for granted as being athletes.
Yeah.
When we get in the real world, I think that helps us and takes us a long way.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, I just remember in school, right? I mean, Monday morning we'd get up, we go to class until 2:00, 3:00. We're on the practice field, practice till 5. Dinner in the restaurants right by our locker rooms. Sometimes have class right after that. Then we have study hall right after that. And I mean, it was so like back to back to back to back. And then, hey, we travel 3-4 days a week, and then we'd have to make up the tests. And yeah, I mean, we had to be great with our time back then, and it totally served me in my career for sure.
Right. It's funny because I used to joke about it with our non-athlete friends in college. Right. They make comments and, stuff about you guys get everything, making, how they do, make the little side comments.
Totally.
I'm up. My whole day is complete by the time you get up from work, from the time you wake up at 1:00. I already had a full day, and I'm still trying to hang out with y'all later on tonight. So, and then I got to get back up early in the morning at 5:00 while you sleep till 1:00 in the afternoon.
Right.
I'm like, you want to trade that? Let's try it for about a week. Let's see if you can handle it. I'm like, no, that's okay. That's okay. I'm like, no, definitely. Trust me, you don't want to do it.
Yeah. Yeah. But, and to your point though, like, I think, it's very interesting, right? In life, when you want to do something that's special and you want to do something that's meaningful, you want to do something that actually not everyone can do.
Right.
And how there's people and sometimes they love you, and they just, unfortunately, their energy comes out in a way where it doesn't come across that way, but they try to derail you from the things that you really want, the things that you can accomplish. And as an athlete and as a business person and even just in a career, you got to sometimes just focus in on what you want, stay the course, and put blinders on.
Right, man. That's one of my things. I'm kind of going back and forth with James Jr. Right, he loved basketball, and in our development, the basketball court is probably a mile away. Right, so he'd be like, "Can you take me to the basketball court?" I was like, "No, you can walk though, or ride your bike. Because if you really want to play, you'll figure out how to get over there to the basketball court. Well, you was at work or you was busy. Okay, but you have 4 bikes in the garage. You got a pair of shoes, and you're only a mile away, so you could walk. I don't want to walk. That's too far. So I'm like, well, you want to play basketball then?
Yeah.
I'm like, the kids that's out there every day, I bet you their parents not taking them out there. I bet you they get there how they get there. And they're going to probably stay there till, before the street lights come on, and play as much as they can. So you got to figure it out on your own. So I try to teach them.
Do you remember that?
I do.
You remember that growing up where your parents were like, you got to be home before the street lights come on?
Right. And you was pushing it. You pushed it. That light started to come on. Then you start running home. Right. The day these kids, you got to force them to go outside.
I know.
They so used to this technology and PlayStation and computers and everything else that's that's new these days. They're so used to it, they don't even like to go outside. It's 70 degrees. You know, it's cold outside. What you mean it's
Yeah.
cold, man? You better go outside and play somewhere. So definitely. So, definitely you've been successful over the last 20 years. How important is it to you, for you, to be, mentoring and giving back to your organization? And how big is your organization today?
So the first part of that question is how important is it? In my opinion, that's the best part about what I do is to serve. Maybe it's I'm half Hispanic. My mom's Colombian, right? So I that serving attitude and that value of service. There's a value I have in my company called people before profit, and I really talk about that a lot because I don't know. There's something about giving that the dollar will never match up to. And so for me, it's super important that people serve. I try to make sure when people are even new on staff, I pull them in and let them know that hey, there's going to be a trainer assigned to them, and their whole job is just to help and serve them and help them get with the tools they need. So I think it's super important. As far as the organization today, I mean, we have 26, 27, locations all over the U.S. We're growing. I kind of have three different kind of businesses running in a way. I got my office that I run day-to-day operations on. We got right about 30 people on staff. I have an organization of managers and partners that I've been coaching for the last 20 years or so. And kind of some of them, I literally hired them, taught them the basics of business, and now they're entrepreneurs and they're running their own companies. So they're, very close to the heart, and I'm helping them. And then within our business, most recently, I helped launch this AT&T wireless thing with Target and some of these big retail stores. So I'm also in a role where there's a group of entrepreneurs, about 60, 70 entrepreneurs that some of them I knew really well as they've matured in our program. And some of them I'm meeting for the first time running their companies, and I'm doing my best to support them to run great businesses and align with, kind of what we're doing and what we're looking to do with our clients. So we got, kind of some different, a lot of plates spinning, to say the least. But I love it. I love it. I wouldn't have it any other way. I love the challenge of business. I love the challenge of coaching, supporting. I believe through my example of how I treat my wife and my kids and how I run my business that I believe people can learn some things about themselves and level up their life in a positive way. And I don't take that lightly. I think the example is something I just saw my father. He was such a great example of being loyal, worked for a company 39 years, very frugal, very smart with money. Like it was just, I didn't realize until I was older how much of an awesome example he was.
Right. And for me, it's kind of that saying, I forgot kind of how the saying go where, when you never know when people watching you, right? And for me, it was, just watching you run your business on a day to day, on how you ran your business. And I learned a lot from you, just watching you and our conversations that we had, me, you and Eric and Michael Sessions and Stephanie. And I see Unique still with you. I saw her on one of your channels a couple weeks ago. that was exciting.
She recently got married.
She just got married. Oh man, tell her I said congratulations. Definitely. I think we still follow each other on LinkedIn or Facebook or one of the two. So definitely proud of you. Definitely. So if you had to, we can close on this. If you had to tell yourself something 23 years ago, your 23-year-old self that you learned, that you know now that you didn't know at 23, what would it be?
So there's two ways I'll take this question. The first one is don't be so hard on yourself. one thing good and bad about me and my heart and my mind is I've always wanted to succeed in whatever I was doing, whether it was on the soccer field, whether it was in the classroom, whether it's in the business that I'm in, or new into my career in sales. And I think along the way, I was so competitive that I kind of hurt my progress, and I wouldn't make the progress I needed. So I've learned now that the most important conversation you have is the one you have with yourself. And so if people actually understand that conscious, subconscious side of your mind, then you can say things and you can build your confidence into whatever you're doing next. And so for me, I would say that is, don't be so hard on yourself. And then the second thing I would say, I actually heard my buddy a similar question, and I totally hit me in the heart. And I would say thank you. Thank you for believing in yourself. Thank you for not quitting when things got hard and walking away. Thank you for committing to making progress and not being perfect. Thank you for being smart enough to get the people that were around you that were naysayers and telling you that you're not good enough or you can't accomplish. Thank you for not listening to them and staying the course. Because I wouldn't have it any other way. I'm incredibly grateful for the business I have today. And listen, I got my ass kicked a lot in business, and also in life, which translated to business. It was a little bit of both. But and to your point, I just celebrated 20 years in business, literally a few days ago, and it's kind of crazy because I'm thankful that I didn't quit, because I think the best things in life are going to be hard sometimes, and you got to work for them. So I would say thank you, and I want to say thank you to you for always being in my corner. Right? We've
Definitely.
been friends now, and we met in business, but we knew each other a little bit in college, and I'm just such a fan of you and what you're doing right now, and that I'm so happy to hear that your entrepreneurial spirit is coming out. I know you went away for a minute there, and now you're getting it back. And if there's anything I can ever do to help you or your family, don't ever hesitate to ask.
Definitely appreciate it, man. Proud of you too as well. Excited